We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Attack. It feels like I've been talking to myself again, but it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true. And it feels alright when they come and say to you,
good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters. It is Friday evening, the three amigos, the perfect way to kickstart your Newcastle United weekend for the final time this season. Not the final amigos though, we'll be running through the summer, but the final pre-match amigos until the start of the new season. It's welcome to Mitch, welcome to George. Steve will be joining us. He's finishing work and said he'll jump straight on as soon as he arrives. But as always, plenty to talk about. Obviously, we've got a cup final of sorts this weekend, which we'll be coming to in the second half of the show. But as always, lots of questions have come in over the course of the week. Lots of messages, lots of tweets, lots of people asking stuff, and always happy to try and give a perspective on these questions that are asked. And Stephen Moore is one of those people. He messaged me yesterday and he said, question for the three amigos. Newcastle have lost the same amount of away matches as Burnley and Sheffield United. Why are we so poor away from home with the great support who travel and sing their hearts out? Please discuss. Steve, your wish is my command. George, why do you think the away form has been as bad as it has been this season?
Ironically, Steve, I think Neil says it often enough. As a supporters group, we've got to get used to winning. And we're not used to that yet. And sadly, it filters through into the team, I think. The other thing is that there are one or two of them, even at home, never mind away, just try too hard. Just try too hard. If a bit more patience and a bit more street savvy. I have been on about it before. The fact we don't have streetwise players in the team, it just alarms me sometimes. And that's part of it, and it filters through to the team as well as it does to the fans. So for me, it's a double thing. We haven't got used to it as a fan base, and the team haven't got used to it either. We've got to change in attitude and go with the view. If we'd gone with the view on Wednesday night that match was ours, it was ours. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But we didn't wake up to that till it was too late. Yeah, it's about an attitude of mind, and it's about attitude of mind throughout Newcastle United, from fans to team. And until we change that and get supporters used to the fact that we're going within my mind that we can't lose, is very important, and that's a difficult one, and that's what it's about for me. And the other side is that with one or two younger ones in the team, there are one or two who are really, really trying. Occasionally trying too hard, and that results in them not quite reaching their best because they're just reaching too far for things when they shouldn't be. So there's a number of things. It's complex, but it's definitely it's a mental as well as a physical and skill thing, and as long as it's in the supporters, it's going to be difficult to drive it out of the team as well, and but it's not new. I mean, for we've had it for some time. We've had good years when if away form had just been a couple of games better, we could have been winning prizes. We threw them away basically on other pitches, not on our own, and frustrating. Stephen's right. It's very frustrating. It's like this, but I kind of understand it a little bit. But it's about changing attitudes, in my view, on the pitch, off the pitch, in the stands. Although the supporters seem to have got it because of the way that they sing and chant from beginning to end, whether win or lose, that they never stop. But that needs to go onto the pitch as well, and it doesn't. It doesn't manage to penetrate that so far. And as I says, the odd ones, particularly the younger ones that it does, tend to be trying too hard and are stretching for things rather than being calm and taking their time. That they're stretching and hurrying when just a little few more seconds on the ball and it could make a killer ball from a nothing ball. So that's what it's about for me, Steve. It's about an attitude that seems to pervade the dressing room, and we need to get back to where we were the season we did so well. Although if you look at the away losses that year, there were still some pretty drastic ones.
Okay, what's your thoughts on the away form? Eddie Howe addressed it in the press conference this morning, Mitch, and he just said, we need to improve it. And I mean, there has been a massive downturn in the away performances this season.
And I was going to carry on pretty much where my dad left off there about mentality. I think it's a mental thing, and that's something Eddie Howe mentioned as well, that he felt we were mentally ready for it, but we obviously weren't. There's a disconnect there. Something that Eddie has recognised. He's recognised it in the press conference about being in the right place and to grab the opportunity, but then we didn't, and he was frustrated about that. Well, so are we. And to pick up on about that season when Eddie came in, away losses, we'd already had so many by the time that he arrived. We've actually got the same amount of away losses as that season now.
Yeah.
And that's concerning. What is this disconnect that says this season we haven't been the same away from home? We've conceded some terrible goals. You can point your finger at not having Pope, because I'm sorry again on Wednesday night, Dubravka demonstrated the art of having crisp packet hands yet again.
Yeah.
And I think other keepers would have saved at least one of those shots. I saw some graphic the other day that he's not saved a single shot down to his right-hand side from inside the 18-yard box since he's come back into the side.
Wow.
Not a single one. And so I don't know whether that's true or not, because obviously people chuck stats around like they chuck all sorts around these days. But it was bad enough a stat for us to believe it. Because I've been trying to put my finger on, well, what is he doing wrong? That there's such a big gap between Pope and Dubravka. And whilst again you could say, well, it can't be all about the goalkeeper, but Pope, I think, is still in the top 5 keepers with clean sheets this season. And he's not played for a third of the season.
Yeah.
And so he's obviously a big cog in the defensive machine that we have, physically and mentally. Is this a clear show that our back line do not trust Dubravka behind them, and they get jittery and they make mistakes because they're wanting to protect their keeper who they feel is vulnerable? But then you look at that back four We've got Trippier coming back in. And I'm sorry, he picked up where he left off, playing people on side and not being in the right position. I couldn't believe how far onside Manu was for that first goal. I don't think he could either, because I'm sure when he put the ball in the back of the net, he was expecting to see a flag go. What's that all about? There's something within our squad that's bigger than the injuries. And I think it's affected for a long part of the season. I think there are some internal issues that are going to need some ruthlessness from someone. Maybe it's the manager, maybe it's people higher up than the manager over the close season. And also constantly disrupted the team. I think it's pretty well proven if your team is disrupted constantly, you do concede more goals and you're less well organised. It has to be a factor in some way. I don't think it's an easy answer, but my frustration after Man U on Wednesday was palpable. I had to keep my gob shut on Thursday. I'm still trying to be very careful what I say out of anger, because I am still quite angry. That's the worst Man U side we've come up against probably in my time watching them. And we should have had more than enough to put that team away. And for whatever reason, on the night, we could not. And yet again, this is another game I'm looking at where we played away from home that we've lost, where we're sitting saying, well, if that had gone differently, maybe this happens. If that had gone differently, maybe that happens. You make your own luck. Your own luck comes from your own positivity and your own mental mindset. And I think we got what we deserve out of the game, which was out, which is super frustrating.
It is. Alan Little, a big shout out to Carl Wilson, please, Steve. A great lad. I visit on my round at NTC Reablement Service. He never misses a show. Carl, thank you very much for watching.
Good lad, Carl. Yeah.
Hope you're doing well, sir. Okay. Questions. I've got a couple coming in from people watching live. Which one do we go with first? I'm going to go with Alan. Alan posted this the other night and we didn't get around to it. George, would anyone want the Tyne to lose if it prevented the Mackems winning a trophy? I'd like to think I never would. Now, this question stems from the fact that Ange Postecoglou had a supporter behind him at the Spurs game who was cheering when Spurs went 2-0 down. In fact, he was doing the Poznan to celebrate the fact that it was going to help prevent Arsenal winning the league. What's your views on that, George? I'll tell you where I stand on this, because I was asked this on the breakfast show this morning. I think there's always a minority in the fan base who would do that, but I don't think the majority of fans would want that. No,
and me neither. All I want is a black and white win. What happens elsewhere? Yes, I'm interested in what happens in the red and whites on T side and on Weir side, but 100% for me is what happens in the black and white shirt. And if that's all right, that's all that matters. The other stuff's incidental. Get a laugh out of it, get a smile out of it, be able to chat with mates who support the other side and take your eyes out of each other. But to actually expect my team to lose, to damage the red and whites, no, I don't want my team to lose any time for anybody. I just want a black and white win, and I think I'd hope most Magpies are the same, because there's so much going on without that sort of negativity. I mean, well, I nearly went into a rant about those bloody sports washing idiots, because they're not about sports washing. They just want to damage Newcastle United. They have said it. That's all they're about. They're just anti-Newcastle, that they couldn't care less, and that's the kind of people who would embrace the attitude is, yes, let we lose to hurt Sunderland. No, sorry, I'm a football fan and a black and white fan, so I want the black and whites to win. That's 100% me.
Okay, I mean, obviously that's your opinion, George. I don't know the guys who are part of that group. I know one of them. I think he was a councillor in an area I used to live back in the day. But but Neil, the football side of things, what would you feel? If Sunderland needed to win the league, on the penultimate game of the season, the last game of the season, and their nearest rivals were playing Newcastle. Would you want Newcastle? Would you want Newcastle to win the game? How would you feel? What would you?
I get why that sentiment comes out, but for me, all I care about is Newcastle United. The only time Sunderland are relevant to me is when we play them. That's the only time they're of any relevance to me. I can't imagine a scenario where that would happen for a long, long time anyway. So it's sort of a moot point, really. But no, I'm only interested in what Newcastle United do. I'm not really interested in what dear neighbours or anybody else does, for that matter. We've got enough on our plate to be concerned about, and we should only be focused on us and the improvement of us and the betterment of us. And I can't ever imagine a scenario where I would want us to lose a game. I just don't get that.
No.
Yeah. No, me neither. Ken Robinson just having a reply to what you were saying earlier. He says, I thought Trippier basically gave up after about 15 minutes. Number of times somebody go past him, then he just stood back and watched. He didn't have a great game. There's no doubt about it. And I mean, he's come back from injury and, he's been away to Dubai. He's done a little bit of training out there. But yeah, listen, that game's gone now. And I think we just move on. We've got to focus on the positives. We've got to focus on Brentford away. I put it down to the fact that we had 20 shots on target, 20 shots at goal on Wednesday night, and we only scored 2. That's it. It's as simple as that. And we conceded 3 awful goals. So it's as simple as that. It's a game of football. We've lost it. We need to move on, and we've just got a better or equal Manchester United's result at the weekend, and then hope to get beaten in the cup final.
I have a worry about Trippier's performance and about Trippier all round. The fact he's been absent in Dubai. I wonder if Trippier's saving himself for the bloody Euros.
It's going to be in their mind, George. I mean, I would dare say it's in Anthony Gordon's mind as well. He's been brought down. He's got an injury. We don't know whether he'll play on Sunday or not. But it will be in his mind. In his mind and I know he gets paid by Newcastle, but at the same time, you can't help the emotion of
anybody that's played football and sees the hole in his stocking and his heel and his Achilles after that tackle.
Yeah.
If you know how hard it is to tear a bloody sock, what a horrible, horrible tackle that was.
Yeah,
it
was
not even a card. So
we're not talking about that game. We're talking about England.
No.
We're talking about Trippier. We're talking about Trippier and I don't think he's fully fit, and I don't think Longstaff's been fully fit for weeks at all. And I feel sorry for Sean Longstaff.
Kind of accepted that, haven't we?
Yeah. T-Tank says, but Steve, we need to learn from that game. I don't think we will, because everything's coming through the middle of our midfield. Yeah, but we're not at full strength. We're not at full strength. You've got to. I want to park the Man United chat. We're not at full strength. And if we were at full strength and we got beat off Manchester United, I'd say, right, that's fair enough. You know what I mean? But ultimately, we weren't at full strength. We give it a go. We went down there. We just weren't good enough on the night. There was 2 average teams who gave a goal fest for the neutral. I predicted a 3-2 win to Newcastle. I wasn't far off, was I? I wasn't far off. I thought it was going to be that kind of game. 2 average teams who are chasing 7th, 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Not good enough for Man United. And it'll be great if we finish above them for the first time in the Premier League. It's not the first time we've finished above them. We've finished above them again. Football didn't just start with the Premier League. But, it's one of those things. It's people get sucked into it on social media as well. Anyway, Alan, happy anniversary to you as well. Yes, today is to the day, the 40th anniversary for my first Newcastle game. And it's the same for Alan Little, because today is the 40th anniversary of Kevin Keegan's game, Afid Kev, at St James's Park when he flew off in the helicopter. So It is the 40th anniversary of me supporting Newcastle and Alan Little and Ross Gregory, who used to do the show. I've noticed he's posted it today. That was his first game as well. So quite a few of us in that Kevin Keegan club of the first time we went to St James's Park. So I hope everybody is digging that programme out and having a look through it and putting the footage on YouTube and stuff like that. Okay, let's get back to the questions. Question from Sean. Has the last 2 games been the lowest point of the takeover? To say I felt low at full time, Thursday night's an understatement. I'm really worried about the tactics in some games and I'm puzzled. Let me answer this one first, Sean. I'd say no. I was like Mitch. And probably like George, I was angry after the Man U game. I was angry we lost. I was angry that Man United fans I know were ringing us up. So, but I wouldn't say it's the lowest point. I tell you where the lowest point was for me, Mitch. You might disagree. I'll come to you first. Cambridge United in the FA Cup was the lowest point for me. When we got knocked out by Kieran Trippier's on the pitch, I'm thinking we've got a great player there. We're getting knocked out of the FA Cup, and the second one was getting beat by Man United in the cup final when I thought finally we were going to break the hoodoo of a cup win. So those are the 2 lowest points since the takeover for me, Mitch. What about you?
I think that surrounding that Cambridge result, there was other things going on with the club and things that we saw coming that have now come to fruition with things like ticketing that we knew were on the horizon and we knew what was going to the problems it was going to cause, and for all we were trying to say, do you just want to have a real hard think about this? That fell on deaf ears, and we knew that the club were going to go their own way on certain things, and they were going to suffer the consequences. And I think that complicated that point. I think certainly for me as well. Lowest point of the takeover it's difficult to say. I tell you what, we are coming to. I think we are coming to a crossroads. I think we're coming to a crossroads. I think we're coming to a point where, particularly with the Ashworth situation on top, of where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What's the next step? What's that roadmap look like? And who does that roadmap involve coming along for the ride or not? And that's what I think we're coming to. I think the fans feel it. We're not stupid. Particularly our travelling fans. Our travelling fans pick up about all sorts. They pick up on certain things. Sometimes they don't even know what they're picking up on. But they know something's not right. And I do think that's what we're coming up to. And that's why people feel it, because if we do anything different, it's change, and managing change is one of the hardest things to do. I think Jody Toonfalif, I think you're right. I think that'd probably be my lowest point, was exiting to PSG in the way we did, because that was the start of a month of horrendousness, where we went out to competitions left, right, and centre, and we were down to like 6 fit players and a dog, And I think that for me was that point. But I think that's what people are picking up on. They're picking up on that there are decisions that are having to be made, that there are changes above Eddie Howe afoot with Ashworth, and above that with the dilution of the Cantervale stocks with everybody else and the change in the way the investment works. That's sort of a signal that things may be different. They've had, that big powwow, and we'll see what comes thereof. We've got so much to look forward to still. I think the Adidas launch is going to be something that'll put a spring in a lot of people's steps for lots of different reasons, for example. But that puts a spring into the financial steps. I've seen people talking about this Australia friendly, which is an odd one. But I'll try and give a different perspective for it. The club wouldn't do it if it wasn't valuable in terms of pounds, shillings and pence valuable. And it's not just us doing it. Spurs are doing it as well. And their owner likes a bobber too, doesn't he? And so there's got to be other advantages coming than just the financial as well out of that. or the A-League looking to have more ties to the Premier League with feeder teams and things like that. We've talked about multi-club ownership recently. And also, it's not like they're travelling on Qantas and cattle class. They'll be travelling well, and they'll be back in Newcastle before either the FA Cup final or the Champions League kicks off.
Yeah.
And so, yes. And Trippier, there's another thing. Why is Trippier being quoted saying he doesn't think it's a great idea? Where's that come from? Where's it come from for him to speak out like that? And you look again at the journalists who have been pushing that line. It's mostly the ones who will also jump on the anti-Saudi agenda. So there's something going on there which we cannot work out. It's more these little games and sort of the politics of the media reporting on Newcastle United that's happening. And it's another message that all doesn't seem to be well, and we've got a crossroads on the way. And I do believe whatever goes on will come out the other side of it all well and good. But I think that's why everybody's a bit jumpy. You wouldn't feel it.
What's your thoughts on George?
Crossroads is right. Neil is the nail on the head. I mean, you remember a few weeks back when we were talking about some of the poor form and all the rest of it. I did say at the time that come the summer there might be some really big surprises coming our way. The one thing, having worked with a number of Saudis over the years, the one thing they won't have is second best. You know, I can guarantee that, and they'll be looking at ways to shake things up and get more out of everybody next year. And it may be a shake that surprises people, is my view. And again, you know, Neil's hit a nail on the head. Why is Trippier being as outspoken as that when he never has been before? And I also heard some things from a friend about Callum Wilson this week, which was upsetting as well. And I think, well, hold on, what's happening here? What's happening here? And it's just part of a general feeling that that maybe the players are picking up that the summer's not just going to be a couple of months on the beach. They're going to come back to some big surprises, I think, and so are we. And if we're going to make progress, we've got to accept that that's part of what's going to happen. And doing things like this Australian thing, there'll be method in the madness. It won't be done just for fun or for gloss. There's always method in the madness when they're involved, because they're not used to second best, and they'll not accept second best. And so if there's an opportunity to shake things up and as a means of moving forward even next year, then I think they would take it. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind that they would take it. And as a fan, what I want the black and whites going forward in the best way they can, but at the top, not anywhere else. And if that means we've got to have a shake up, then we've got to have a shake up, you know, and that's what we need.
Okay, plenty to come as always on a Friday night on NUFC Matters. YouTube has been buffering the last couple of days. There seems to be some kind of glitch, but it seems to be okay now and back on, which is good. Keep an eye on that. Not much we can do, unfortunately, if YouTube's powers that be are having issues. But as always, plenty to get through. We'll start with this. A few Steve Hasty lookalikes, one from Jimmy. First of all, to start off with, he's not here to see us, but I'm sure he will be on catch up. And Albert, I think, has been superimposing Mitch's head on top of some guy naked watering his plants. Two lookalikes gardening, Mitch.
At least it's not somebody at the bloody petrol station, that'll do.
Yeah, that's terrible. That one, I've seen that as well. They grow up so fast. Very good. Had a few versions of this, and this was sent in from Stephen Wells Tracy. That's me at the bar in the Irish club, and a guy who
Yeah.
looks exactly like me. So thank you for that. That was watching the Celtic and Rangers game.
It was indeed.
Lewis Miley and some actor, I believe. And Paul Oxley, thanks for this. Toon lookalike. This steward at the game yesterday wearing a hat in the heat, and I thought this is why I twigged. It's a lookalike, isn't it? Yeah, very good. Excellent. We've had this so many times, Andrew, but I don't mind showing Roy Hodgson enjoying his retirement.
Yes.
And a couple which aren't lookalikes, but people just tend to send them in. And rare snapshot of Chuck Norris. This poor kid obviously does look a little bit like Chuck Norris. They've just superimposed it was a bit of stubble on him. Thanks for that, Donald. And this one, that is brilliant from Gary. Piers Morgan played Trisha Yates in Great Hill.
The mouth is spot on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Mouth and nose. Wow.
Yeah, that's a good one. Thanks for that. And the next one, Ian Dowie and Sloth from the Goonies from Tom Dixon.
That's harsh on the Goonies, isn't it? Yeah.
Steve Hasty dancing on a chair. And we've had this one as well, I'm sure. Gary Lionel, Rich T, and Bob Freeman. A biscuit lookalike.
Yeah, me.
Another one from Tom, James Tompkins, and Alistair Cook. Mo Salah.
Oh,
and Peter Sutcliffe from Rob. Thank you, Rob.
That's a ripper, isn't it?
Yeah. And Hasty meeting the stars, says Jimmy Wilson. This is going to be the new feature, isn't it? Dogs in stars' hands with Steve Hasty. That's what it's going to be. Gary sent this one. Optimus Prime thinks he's slick. Optimus Prime and a mop. Very good. And from Tim Cairns, he says, I reckon the blind clown on Wednesday used to think he was Andy Bell from Erasure. And Steve Hasty looks like James Bond now. Pretty good. Pierce Brosnan. I think Steve would take that, to be fair.
I take that.
And Jimmy again, Toon lookalike, Steve Hasty chilling.
Jimmy.
And Shay Given's in on the act now. Conor McManus, he said, number one, Shay Given to star in the remake of The Shining.
Christ.
Jack Nicholson and Shay Given, he's taking that.
It's a hell of a look, that, isn't it?
James Milner and Lee Evans, another one from Tom. And Tuncase Sanley and Masood Ahmed. Not bad, Tom. Not bad. Some good ones this week, mate. Top two, Jabba the Hutt and Mike Ashley. Well done, Night Waves, LG. And the winner this week, Tanya, well done. John Ritter and Dougie Friedman.
Yeah. You can see it. You can see it, yeah.
Good resemblance, that one. If you've got lookalikes, go to our Facebook group or go to our Facebook page. You can join or like or follow me at Steve Wraith on Twitter and send us them over and we will feature them on the show. We'll have more lookalikes next week. Okay, let's get back to the questions. Michael says, Bruno to Man City then. Thoughts? We're covered in midfield. I reckon we can get by without him. Tonali, Anderson, Joe Linton, 120 million for him. Mitch, Joe Linton or Bruno. I mean, Joe Linton signed a new contract, but the contracts aren't worth the paper they're written on. But Bruno hasn't, you could read anything into the way that he's been over the last couple of games. He could just be tired. He's carried the team for 11 weeks without getting booked. What do you think?
He's also one of the best players I've ever seen who occasionally has a Sunday league moment in him. Be that to run up to somebody and boot them up the arse, or his header on Wednesday night. That was 50 pence head stuff. He just got carried away and went at it. If we're building something, we're not building if we're selling our best players. It's that simple. And yes, the release clause to satisfy that. I think you're right. I think Man City would have to not just blow the release clause up, they'd have to, spend a significant amount of money, which from an FFP perspective works. And yes, in some ways, the size of transfer fee we would get for him, we should be able to then reinvest that very well in the squad. But I just don't think it's a good look for a lot of those players around him in terms of, we're that willing to sell, particularly to somebody in the Premier League. And I just still cannot see who can buy Bruno for any level of cash and not put themselves in a financial fair play mire of the teams who could potentially buy him. So for me, no, you're not building a squad if you're selling your best players.
Okay. George, do you think we'll sell Bruno in the summer?
I hope not. There aren't many things that would stop me being a Newcastle United supporter. But I tell you what, if they did, that would push me very close. Neil's absolutely right. We're not. Why sell the team that we want to beat? That Manchester City's who we want to knock the blocks off. And if we're going to sell our best player, how are we ever going to do that? It's never going to happen. So the notion that they would do that, it just would horrify me to the point of distraction. I mean, over the years, I've seen we're selling all sorts of people I would have preferred we didn't, and we did, and invested in others. And yes, it sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. That one makes no sense whatsoever, because I want my team to be first. And who we got to beat? Manchester City at the moment, because we can catch all the others, Arsenal's and everybody else. We can catch them even now almost, with just a slight strengthening of the squad. But if we're going to catch Manchester City, then the Bruno has to be the focus in our team, or one of the focuses in our team. And to let them have him just makes it us admitting that we're never going to catch them. And I'm not for that. I seriously would hesitate about whether I wanted to go back if we were as stupid as that. So, and Neil, and again, who else could do it? Well, very few people could come up with the cash to buy him if we're going to take a straight cash buyout. But to be honest, it would be heartbreaking, heartrending if they did that, because I want Newcastle United first, I want Newcastle United second and third, and all the others can take a run and jump off the Tyne Bridge. And the only way we're ever going to get past them is to have a better team. And Bruno represents a better team. I have not seen a player ever at St. James's Park that has the level of skill that Bruno has from top to bottom. Yes, Neil's absolutely right. Like all great players, he has the odd Sunday morning happening. But by and large, he never, ever refuses a ball on that pitch. What an example to the young players around him. And even when he's surrounded by 3 or 4 opponents, he'll accept the ball to get his mate out of trouble. And with a shake of the hips, he's clear. He's not grease lightning in terms of speed. He doesn't have to be, because he has the other attributes that mean that he can do these things. So to give that skill away to the team that we want to beat would be madness in my view. Absolute madness. And would send a message to me and other fans, I'm sure, that were happy to be second to Manchester City. Well, I'm not. I'm not. I don't like being second to anybody, never mind Manchester City. And, we over the years, we've had some great, great games with Manchester City. And I've enjoyed a lot of them, including cup finals. But I want to beat them now. Don't want to wait another 5-10 years to catch them. I've said to you on here before, I'm a greedy little duck. I want it now. And if we sell that man, then it's never going to happen. Not in recent times.
Congratulations to Peacock Whites of LUFC. Good result for Leeds last night. Big game tonight, of course. West Brom play Southampton. Interesting to see who you get in the final. I think if you get Southampton, I think you'll get beat. I think if you get West Brom, I think Leeds will go up. You've got a great record in the playoff games. It's when you get to the finals that you're not very good, unfortunately, Peacock. But we'll see. Good result last night for you. He says, "What do you think? What do you think of Calvin Phillips at Newcastle?" I wouldn't take him, Peacock. No offense.
No.
I don't think he's good enough. I don't think he's good enough for our project. I don't think he'd get a game at Newcastle, to be perfectly honest. And I think, unfortunately for him, things haven't worked out for him at West Ham. But am I wrong, George? Would you take Calvin Phillips?
Well, I wouldn't. When we were talking about taking him on loan, I was horrified and said so. Look, there may be a talented player in there, but the one thing that bothers me, a player that goes away to an international tournament with the England squad and comes back and he's so unfit that his home manager, Pep Guardiola, wouldn't play him because he was overweight. He wouldn't be, nearly 6 weeks before he kicked the ball to Manchester City after he'd been to an international tournament. Yes, some of that's down to England, but some of it's down to the individual player as well. All this stuff about looking after themselves and and doing things, it's got to have a meaning. And if you look at anything, people criticize anyhow for all sorts of things, I do. But the one thing I won't criticize him about is how he manages to persuade people like Joe Linton, like Emil Kraft, Longstaff, young Anderson, suddenly to look like Charles Atlas on the bloody football pitch. And indeed in Anderson and Dan Burns' case, probably went a bit too far. So no, Calvin Phillips, that finished me with him to come back from an international tournament so unfit, so overweight as well, according to Pep Guardiola. No, his numbers up for me. I wouldn't want him in the St James's dressing room.
Yeah, same for you, Mitch.
I said it clearly when we were talking about we were going to sign him on loan. If you guarantee me that it was the Calvin Phillips that really did tear up trees at Leeds United. I said before, watched a lot of the games of the Leeds fans here in Dubai, and he was immense. He was the best box-to-box, and I think Peacock would agree, the best box-to-box midfielder in the country, bar none, for at least a season and a half. He had everything in his locker, and he worked his ass off, and he looked brilliant. And then he's gone to Man City, and he's lost his way. And that's exactly what he showed since he's gone to West Ham on loan. He couldn't do a damn thing right from the minute he stepped on the pitch in a West Ham shirt. It was like a litany of disasters. It was almost like, is he going to tread on a rake and slap himself in the face with it? Because what else can go wrong for the lad? Because he really has been a total disaster at West Ham. And that was the risk. It was, which one were you going to get? That wasn't a pig in a poke I was prepared to take. And I think that's the problem with him now, was where does he go? He's on big wages, he's worth a lot of money, he's got book value still, but nobody's going to pay it. So he's just going to languish and then do a Danny Drinkwater and disappear. Sadly, that seems to be his path, which I think is unfortunate, because there is a very good player in there.
Yeah,
I should know. Yeah. I've seen enough of it.
Yeah.
A lot of people asking about Ross Barkley. I've got to be honest, I wouldn't take Ross Barkley.
No. Ross has had his day, and he comes for a season wherever he goes or two, and then he disappears into the dark again. And he'll do that at Luton. I'll tell you what, next season I'd be very surprised if the Ross Barkley's is well up there as he has been this season. He's had a good season, no question. Tore us apart twice, but that still wouldn't make me want him at St James's Park.
And who's he going to replace? Who literally would you drop to play Ross Barkley? I know people will say, "Oh, Sean Longstaff," but
well, if I was going to do that, I'd be looking for another Lewis Miley, because I'm sure we've got another one in the dressing room somewhere.
We've got one. It's called Harrison. Alfie
Harrison. Yeah.
Alfie Harrison will break into the first team next season. There's no doubt about it.
And after the goal he scored last night, I'm beginning to realise why we hesitated playing him at fullback. If he can go forward and shoot like that, he may be better off in midfield.
See, the one thing that Eddie Howe does, and I was telling you lads, I couldn't remember the name of the interview that Eddie Howe had done when he in my mind it was before he came to Newcastle, but it was actually when he'd come to Newcastle. So I watched it back this week because the one with the guys from BT Sport, and it's fascinating to listen to him. Having said what, having gone through what we've gone through now, the injuries we've had this season, it's fascinating listening to him and about developing players and stuff like that. And just, it's worth a listen again. I keep forgetting the name of it, but I'm getting to that kind of age now. But if you go and listen to the Eddie Howe interview that he did after he'd signed for Newcastle and he managed that first season and he kept us up, go and listen to it. And it honestly, it opens up your mind again about what he's actually here to do and what he's going to do and why he was appointed by the owners. And it's because the likes of Harrison, the likes of Alex Murphy, the likes of Lewis Miley will all be developed. Howe loves developing players, and that's what he likes to do. He likes to get the best out of them, like he did with Joe Linton, like he did with Almiron, like he did with Murphy. And that's what he specialises in. And he does it really well. And obviously the players have got to want to learn. So that's why Anthony Gordon, who some people felt would be a bad signing for us, has developed because he wants to learn. He wants to listen to what Eddie Howe suggests, and he goes and does it, and he shows it on the pitch. But it's a tough business. Being a football manager. Here's Steve. Good evening.
Hi, Steve.
How are you, mate? Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you guys.
Good stuff, mate. All right, welcome to the show, Steve. You've missed a hell of a lot of points, actually. And you've missed a lookalikes, to be pleased to say. Quite a few dogs. There was quite a few dogs involved.
It was a bit rough.
He looks. Now he's struggling. He's struggling a bit. We'll take him out until he gets sorted. Sam says, is there a lack of imagination in the questions put to Eddie Howe at press conferences? He said, I'm 100% behind Howe, but I think he has it easy at press conferences. Mitch, we listen to the press conferences. I mean, I remember asking Liam Kennedy this a while back. Do you have to submit your questions before the press conference? Do you have to submit the questions that you're going to ask? And he said, no, we don't. So it's interesting when you have a day like we've had today, where there are rumours circulating, shall we say, about Callum Wilson, for example, and nobody really asked about that. Lee Ryder came closest to it, about Callum Wilson and how important he is, and he was like dipping his toe in the water, but he didn't say. There's a few rumours kicking around, Eddie, that Callum Wilson might have played his last game with the club. Is that true? Which is the kind of question a fan wants to know. But nobody asks them questions, so I guess where Sam's coming from here, Mitch.
Yeah, but you've got to also look at it is that over the prior to this ownership, the relationship with the press wasn't an easy one, and they're establishing positive relationships again. And I don't think anybody's quite at the want to rock the boat point. Some will over certain things, like human rights, and when they've got personal agenda, they write something negative in their paper because that's what they want to do, or whether those who are politically conflicted and cannot stop themselves. But when it comes to with things within the squad, I think even when the press are quite fully aware of what's going on, they're trying to be very sensitive towards how the squad and the relationship between the club and the press is. There'll come a time when that'll snap though, when something will happen that really has to be laid on the table, and I don't think they'll be frightened not to do that. But I also think they know they're dealing with somebody who doesn't give long rambling answers, who gives very little away, and who will give a ridiculously straight back answer and stick to it if he so wishes. So what's the point? That'll just turn into some sort of banal merry-go-round. I think it's a tricky one because they've got to keep a positive relationship where they can, and actually rocking the boat with an individual player with one game in the season to go. Does that achieve much for anybody? I don't think it does.
Wow.
It wouldn't be national news. It would be regional news at best. And where they're going to run with it, if there's a certain problem with a certain player who may be on the potential list and be moved on in the summer, what's the point? There's a self-solving problem. It is frustrating though, because I think a lot of we've heard rumours of one form or another, and I think I think it's at the point of there's a hell of a lot of smoke.
Wow!
So there must be a few embers there somewhere. So I think there's obviously something afoot. It's not a good look when you got somebody pulling out of a Q&A session online and still hiding behind the illness line. I mean, surely if you're ill, you could put a couple of minutes in to say, look, guys, I'm really sorry I can't be with you, but I'm under the weather. I think that, to me, is a far more elegant way of dealing with that, if that indeed is what you are. But to sack it off, and I know a lot of my international supporting friends who I speak to regularly on a couple of WhatsApp groups that we've got for the supporters clubs now, particularly the guys on the American side of the pond, were particularly pissed at Callum Wilson's no-show the other day, because if you think about it, they've taken time out of their day to log on to a chat, and and then when you're in a different time zone, for me, usually anything that happens is in the evening, so it doesn't really matter. The biggest thing I'll lose is a little bit of sleep. But for some of these guys, they're starting their day, and then they're going to work, they're having a half day off work. Imagine taking a half day off work to do something, an event with a club. And then the whole reason why you've done it, decide you just want to sack it off because you're not feeling too good today. With no notice, I think that would piss me off rightly as well. And it's not the first time something like this has happened. So, yeah, it's an interesting one. Does he get an easy ride? Yeah, I think I agree. He does sometimes. I understand the reasons behind it. But also I think they know they're dealing with somebody who's a lot more shrewd than that.
Yeah.
And all they're going to get is the straight back answer. They're not going to get nothing else out of them.
Yeah, and that's where I would start, Steve. I think it reflects the maturity of Eddie Howe in terms of how he was when he came and how he is now. Look at those nervous conferences where he was pummeled by all the political questions, and slowly but surely he won his way through. He just found a way of knocking it all back. Can I just divert a little bit? On the strap before, it said there was a group watching from Thessalonica or Saloniki, those of us that know Greece very well, and sending with good wishes. Well, good wishes and yassas to all you in Saloniki. Happy memories for me. Anyway, it's the maturity of Eddie Howe at the press conferences, I think, what sets it off. They know fine well, as Neil just said, that if they ask something which is off-piste, out of court, they'll just get a straight back answer and a very positive one as far as Eddie's concerned. Good on him. Good on him. It reflects his maturity. It reflects the work he's done before he came to us, because he said he'd spent a lot of time thinking about this when he was having his sabbatical out of football, and it's reflected in that. And I think the journos know what's coming if they go off piste. They'll just get something thrown back at them 100 miles an hour, and I think that's good for us, good for him. In terms of individual players, well, he's a man of honour. He doesn't throw players under the bus like certain person used to that used to be our manager. I can just imagine certain other person saying, "Oh well, it was Wilson's fault," etc., etc. No, maturity of how Eddie Howe deals with it, maturity of how the press have come to know him, and maturity of the way he wants to handle Newcastle United and his team. And I think it speaks volumes of him more than anything about the journals or anything. So nice one, Eddie, is all I'd say.
Yeah, the press conferences, Steve, is what we're talking about. What's your feelings about the press conferences? I mean, I was reviewing them at the start of the season when people weren't too when people were interested in what was being said and we weren't getting as much, coverage, people weren't really watching them online. I stopped doing it when people started to just watch them and weren't interested in the review as much. But ultimately, does he get asked the hard questions? And if he doesn't, why doesn't he?
No, he doesn't get asked the hard questions. I think the days of a press guy going to a press conference and asking the hard questions died at the time of Bobby Robson with England, to be perfectly honest, and then any other England manager after that. England managers are the only ones that get a hard ride when it comes to press conferences, in my opinion. I always look back fondly at the Mike Bassett film when Mike got hounded by the press, and if you remember, they literally, I mean, it was a parody on the way that Sir Bobby was treated in '86 and then in '90. But more 86. But I think they do get an easy run now. I think all of them, because at the end of the day, the only reason we have press conferences now is for Sky TV and for TNT. They're the only people. That's why we have press conferences, because it fills up an afternoon on a Friday or an afternoon day before the match, depending on when the game's on. All the clubs run press conferences. It's almost forced on them by the contract. And because of that, you get banal questions and you get banal answers, in my opinion. I don't think you'll have anyone in the local press who will ever go at Eddie Howe, ever hit him with a hard question, ever hit him with anything that is going to be in any way, shape or colour controversial. And I think that's the nature of the way that the press operate now. I think they're very much a case of looking after themselves, looking after their own position. And of course, you've also got to remember that when you go to a game now, the press don't get as much of the advantage that they used to have. They don't get the number of places that used to have. Most newspapers now only get maybe one or two guys that can sit there. The national press, they only get certain numbers. It's all manufactured. It's all stage managed, and even to the point where when the opportunity does come to raise a question, often you don't get, the press guy doesn't get the opportunity, and there's very few, because they're all looking at it from the same angle. So I'm a little bit skeptical about the whole press conference. I managed to catch a little bit of the last 10 minutes before I came on, just before, Stephen. I heard you all talking about Bruno as well, and about whether or not Bruno should be, we should accept a bid from Man City. And I think a lot of people in their mind are probably looking now, as we reach the end of the season, at the way Aston Villa have handled themselves since Jack Grealish signed for Man City. But what I would say to everybody when it comes to that and the way that they spent their money, they also did it with a new manager. And I think a lot of what's happened at Aston Villa is down to the change of coach rather than the way that they've spent the money, because I think the coach has had an awful lot to do with where Man City have ended up this season. You just have to look at that 5-1 drubbing that we gave them at the start of the season and how the team changed and how their managers handled the situation. I don't think that was to do with the fact that they were able to use Jack Grealish's money to turn them into a much better squad. I think it was because of purely down to the coach and the way that the club has been able to manage themselves subsequently. So it might seem a good idea to take 150 million for Bruno. But what I would say was, what you're getting rid of with Bruno as well, if you decide that some of you feel as though he should be sold, is that you're selling a player who's played virtually every single game, doesn't get injured. And when we've only had a squad of 7 players in our squad who have managed to play more than 25 games this season, and he's one of them at 37 games, or 36, that says an awful lot when it comes to league games. So don't think that if you get rid of Bruno, that the money might be spent wisely, or that would be a better team without him. We're a far, far better team with Bruno in it.
Okay, great.
Get off my chest.
Yeah, no, 100%. I can well understand. Okay, we're halfway through the show. We will have a quick ad break. We will be back after this. A big thanks to all our sponsors: Skips and Bins, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay-as-you-go waste collection. Thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. Their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Telephone 01768 210 102 or email info@mrvickies.co.uk. Thanks to United Group Travel. There are no strangers in our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. Their website, unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com. Telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. Thanks to Media Arts for the technical side of things. And you can also find us as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. You can subscribe to the channel by hitting the subscribe button underneath this video. Hit the all notifications bell so you don't miss a show. Hit the thumb up to like the channel and click share to your social media. If you want to join the channel, then click join for as little as $1.99 a month. If you want to become a member for a one-off £25 payment, email john@nufcmatters.com or go to membership at the website nufcmatters.com. If you've got a smartphone, hold your camera over the QR code and it'll take you straight there. We also help the food bank on this channel. Go to nufcfansfoodbank.co.uk to the matchday bucket and you can leave a virtual donation today. Don't forget, it's the last week of the Northeast Footy Brekkie Show. Next week, join me, Ryan, Ted, live on Toon Radio, weekdays 7 till 9 on DAB, smart speakers, and the toonuk.com. Then we're having a couple of months off. We'll be back in the new season, though. End of season due is the 20th of July. I've just been up to the Dementia Matters Centre at the Bradbury Centre today. Me, Leslie St. John, and Joe Allen have been up there and entertaining the residents, which is great to see them. But it's in aid of Dementia Matters. The Longsands, Supermat and Gibbo and George will be doing a little bit on stage. Tickets are a tenner, nufcmatters.com and newcastlelegends.com. 5 o'clock start. Get your tickets. Good to see Rob, who does Tuesday's show, has bought his ticket today. He's going to be coming down, so you'll get a chance to meet Rob as well. And another Rob you can meet is Rob Lee, Friday the 2nd of August. And tickets are available for that from ticketmaster.co.uk or from Woucher. Get yourself on a voucher for tickets for that. Okay, as always, on Friday night on the Amigos, there is plenty to get through. It's time for Tweet of the Week. And where do I start? I am literally inundated. I've probably got enough tweets now for the next 2 weeks, but I never get sick of the Star Trek ones. What do you call a bedpan in Russia? I don't know. A Putin. Oh, my.
Oh, God.
Very good. And time to work out. Where? Damn it, Jim.
Damn it, Jim. Oh, dear.
Northern Lights really got on me wick when everyone was putting all these photos on Facebook. So here's the Northern Lights in Liverpool. I thought I'd share them with you. And here's the Northern Lights in Iceland.
Me.
Thank you, Spenny, for that. When you're having a bad day, lads, take a thought of this guy.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah. And Butcher Open. Dear vegans, I've killed this cow because it was eating your food. You're welcome. And you're sick of seeing workmen do nothing. This sign's hilarious from National Highways. We are working out of sight, so you may not see us.
classic.
One for Stu Penman. Iron and done, Hoover and done, dust and done. Kids bathed, kids in bed. Perfect time to leave the pub. And me on my way to ask my wife what's wrong with her. And I loved the Tempman's vegetable soup after a swim at the baths. Do you remember that machine, lads?
Oh my God.
I bet you there's a few people at home now going, yeah, I remember that.
Chin Road baths.
Future Square baths. Yeah. Weather girls now. Weather differences between France and Mexico. And dad jokes from Dunnell, this one, I think. I went skydiving today for the first time. This guy strapped himself to me. We jumped out of the plane. And as we plummeted, he said, So how long have you been an instructor? Ugly Camelus was good as well. Newcastle United's under 17-year-old Lewis Miley's played more matches in Europe than Sunderland did since their establishment back in 1879. Yeah, well, I do like a good stat. And Magnus, our friend on a Wednesday, sent us this. All settled, all ready for the Battle of Hastings. Believe it or not, I'm a Northumbrian soldier, and my sidekick has been acting as an extra for the last 7 years. He looks the part, lads.
Certainly does.
He looks the part. Big
Wouldn't
shout
like to meet Tim in the dark night.
Definitely not. When you decide you don't need sex and just want to be single for the rest of your life, there you go, lads.
Oh, dear.
And historic vids here. Difference between an alligator left and a crocodile right. The answer to this was, I believe the main difference is that one will see you later and the other will see you in a while. I could be wrong. I'm not a zoologist. And if you suck at playing a brass instrument, lads, then that's probably why. Very good. I like this one as well. Thanks, Paul. I don't see the resemblance, says the cat.
Oh, dear me.
Oh.
And how to say hi in Mandarin, lads.
Oh, God.
Clever.
Very clever, very clever. Are we there yet? I got the favourite Star Trek one this week. That's brilliant. Simple. Just remember 5 years ago, you dreamed about where are you now? Cleverly, this guy changed his name to Bruno Fernandes and said, I can assure you, I did not dream of being in my current situation. Another Man United one as well. My friend's shop was broken into last night and the thieves took absolutely everything of value. And never ask a woman her age, a man his salary, or Manchester City for their financial records between 2009 to 2018.
Good. Very
And more problems at Sesame Street. Nude photos of the Sesame Street Muppets have been leaked online. And it must have been a rough divorce, lads.
Oh, took off the house.
Took off the house, yeah. Mark Wallace said Romano Florani Mussolini, the great-grandson of Benito Mussolini, is expected to start for Pescara this evening in their Serie C playoff against Juve Next Gen. Mark Wallace says he'll be looking to dictate the game.
Very good, Mark.
Man United Club Shop, Old Trafford souvenir shop there. Swimming gear, floats, you name it. And another one from Dunnell. My girlfriend got scammed the other day by a woman called Anna who got her to invest in a snake farm in India. I'm afraid anaconda.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Excellent. And sometimes you need to be brave. Take a risk. I'm the guy in the red.
Oh, my God.
And the reason aliens never came back, lads, there you go. And Chris... Kieran Trivia questions Newcastle's decision to fly off on a post-season tour of Australia and says it's far from ideal, especially on the eve of the Euros. Chris says, don't underestimate Benidorm. I've just done a 4-day break there and it was one of the hardest training camps I've ever done. And this was good. Rereads text. The funeral's going to be a somber affair. Takes off Mexican hat. Man City winning the league 4 times in a row is a serious achievement, to be fair. It's up there with Lance Armstrong winning 7 tours on the bounce. And here's a nice jacket, lads. Stone Island jacket for sale if anyone's interested.
Clever. Like that.
And my weekend order is here ahead of schedule. This is an order for Steve Wraith. A little bit of wine there. And if your girlfriend looks like this, then she's probably a keeper.
True.
Could be.
And when you think you make an awesome Hulk, but everyone thinks you're Shrek. Weather girl again. Tricky start of the season for Pollen FC. And I did like this one. Not exactly sure how to answer this one. Have you ever been in an accident that resulted in your death?
Yes.
We repair what your husband fixed. Great thing by appliance repair team. A lovely haircut here, lads.
Look, wow. Christ almighty.
A lot of time and effort gone into that. It's coming up to festival season as well, lads, with the summer break. Welcome to the Muff Festival.
All right.
Right? Oh.
If you want to dive into.
Tickets are on nufc.com. Shut in Cantonese takeaway.
Oh, dear me.
That's a great restaurant name, isn't it?
I think I'll pass.
And the police stopped me last night, came up to my window and said papers. I said scissors, I win, and drove off. He must want a rematch. He's been chasing us for 20 minutes. Last couple. Why AI man? Very good. Alexa Pet plays Crocodile Shoes by Jimmy Neal. And the winner this week. A farmer went to a local bar and ordered a glass of champagne. The woman sitting next to him said, "How about that? I just ordered champagne too." "What a coincidence," the farmer said. "This is a special day for me. I'm celebrating." "This is a special day for me too. I'm also celebrating," said the woman. "What a coincidence," said the farmer as they clinked glasses. He added, "What are you celebrating?" "My husband and I have been trying to have a child, and today my gynecologist told me that I'm pregnant." "What a coincidence," said the man. "I'm a chicken farmer, and all last year me hens were infertile, but today they're all laying eggs again." "That's great," said the woman. "How did your chickens become fertile?" "Well, I used a different cock," he replied. The woman smiled, drank his glass, and said, "What a coincidence."
Oh, dear me.
There you go. That's your tweet of the week. Thanks to everybody who sent them in. Lots more to come next week. Okay, here we go, lads. Because the weigh-in's happening in the next 10 minutes or so, Fury or Usyk, George, who's going to win the big fight this weekend that Mitch is going to?
I have a fancy Usyk will upset the odds.
No, man. Okay. Right, so you think Usyk's going to upset the odds? Knockout or points?
Knockout.
Oh, wow. Okay. Mitch, I'm going to keep you to last because you're going. Steve, what do you reckon?
Dear me.
Oh, you haven't got your mortgage on it, have you?
No, I feel like I have. You know what? I had a feeling that Usyk might be just a little bit too quick for him. I don't know whether he's lost too much weight. I mean, certainly Fury has gone through quite a transformation physically, hasn't he, for this fight? I mean, I think he's going to go in at the lightest he's ever been.
We'll see. I'm going to hopefully have the update for you as we go on. But
I think it might go to points, and I think Usyk might take him on points. But there again, you just don't know with Tyson, do you? He could just land one. But I just have this feeling Usyk on points, Steve. As much as I hate to say it.
Okay. What about you, the Mitch? You're going to be ringside with Penman. Cracking seats, by the way. I've just seen I saw the picture of where your seat is. I mean, you're literally, you're going to be on the television, mate. You're going to be on the television. And hopefully you haven't got your budgie smugglers on for this big event.
Well, I was thinking of budgie smugglers in my black and white shirt just to make sure you could see us. But
yeah, you should get your tune top on, mate. 100%.
For me, if it's a fight, Usyk. If it's a brawl, Fury. And I'm also looking at the close-up of the cut on Fury's eye that caused the postponement of the fight last time. And there's still lots of scar tissue there that Usyk could work on. So I think Fury has to finish it within 6 rounds for me. I think if it goes beyond 6 rounds, it'll be Usyk. If it goes under 6 rounds, it's Fury.
I'm going for Fury, 8th round knockout. Cruiserweight, heavyweight, big difference. Yeah, Usyk's done well in his career. I think he's underestimated Fury, and I think that the weight that he comes in at is important, but that height and weight advantage will whatever. I think it'll play a big point, but
he's
underestimate Usyk at a disadvantage.
He's such a difficult fighter to bet against.
Yes,
because he's showed how many times he has an ability to draw from a reserve of strength that almost nobody else seems to have. And you're right about the step up from cruiserweight to heavyweight. It's a big one, but Usyk's looked very comfortable in all the fights I've seen him fight at heavyweight. But he's never fought a fighter like Fury.
No, definitely not.
That's interesting, Steve. I mean, I was listening to some of the experts on the radio this afternoon, and there's even discussions about what the thickness of the canvas. I mean, this goes to show you that. I mean, I know very little when it comes to the actual spec of boxing. I just see what I see in front of us. But when you hear them talking about, the Usyk camp wanting a thinner canvas because he wants to move a little bit quicker, and the Fury fight camp want a thicker canvas because he wants to stand there and dictate the pace, but he doesn't want Usyk to be able to bounce around him in the manner that he does. All of these things are fascinating for me as a non-boxing person, if you like, not somebody who's been steeped in boxing all the years and knows that these can be advantages or disadvantages going forward, as can the ropes and how tight the ropes are, and all this type of thing. So I think it's going to be a fascinating fight, to be perfectly honest. And I think Mitch and Stu, as you say, sitting virtually in the virtually ringside there, are going to have a hell of an occasion. And let's face it, whoever wins the fight, rather, deserves to win, because we're talking about a unification of all the belts and everything, and it's where it then leads to for the winner. Going forward, but I think it should be a great occasion for boxing overall, and I think everybody is going to be enthralled by it no matter what happens.
Yeah, huge occasion. Looking forward to watching it tomorrow night, and hope you and Stu have a great time, Mitch. It's a hell of an occasion to be at. I've been to big fights like that, and it's
he's already over there at the Al Nasser Al Hilal game.
Yeah.
With my friend Mr. Mohammed, who's been kind enough to take over, because he took with the Al Hilal game when we were over there. He's very well connected at Al Hilal, for I think is the polite way to say it. The fact he had the Saudi League trophy sitting on his dining table when we went to his house should suggest how well connected at Al Hilal he is. And what an absolutely super guy. And so Stu's already at the match over there tonight, and then I'll join them tomorrow morning, and then must stop for me.
Get your Toon shirt on, because I tell you what, I went when I was in Portugal a couple of weeks ago. I arrived at the airport, and this guy runs over to us and he goes, "Great to see that. Can I have a photo?" And he says, "I'm one of the main men at Sella," and he was in Portugal getting a crossover flight, and he'd seen the top. I tell you, you'll be mobbed if you've got a top on, as long as you can wear a top out there. But you should stick it on under a shirt or something if you're allowed to wear a top at the ringside. I don't know.
Given how hot it is over there, I'm probably just going to go for the subtle polo, because it's going to be baking hot. And also the area we're in, I think it would be. I don't think a football shirt would go down well in the area we're in.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we're going to move on and go to a different topic, one which has been talked about quite a lot this week, and it's VAR. Wolves put a proposal forward, George, to scrap VAR. It's interesting to see Jamie Rubin, and that's the angle I want to cover tonight, put a tweet out tonight about a 60-second rule. And I think it's a great suggestion that Jamie Rubin's put out, George. He suggests that what should happen is the on-field official should, have an opportunity to look at a 60-second clip of the offence that needs to be looked at in real time only. And if you can't come to a decision after 60 seconds, then it's deemed it's obviously not clear and direct that, a decision. So you move on. And that's what the VAR should look at as well. So it should be a 60-second, they get 60 seconds to decide. They get to watch the clip from all angles, but it has to be in real time. And I think that I've said this before. I've said it on the Northeast Football Breakfast Show. We've spoken about VAR constantly this season. And I said, probably way back in August when we started the show, and continue to say it, they should, it's the fact that they slow it down. Things look different, slowed down. But if you just watch a clip from all the angles, granted, but at normal speed, I think that's a solution. I do think it's a solution, George.
It's a nice idea, but there's a one I've been drumming on about all season as well. Just send all the people from Stockley Park and from the Premiership to go and talk to the people at the cricket, the people at the rugby league, and watch how they do it. And listen to how the fans get to know what's being said. Watch how the fans get to see every clip on the screen themselves, not just at the hidden few at Stockley Park or in some dark room somewhere. Everybody gets to see it. Do rugby league have this sort of problem? Do rugby union have this sort of problem? Do cricket have this sort of problem? I mean, Indians wouldn't have anything to do with it in cricket, but then they eventually realised that it was for the better of the game. It wasn't for the worse of the game. VAR has seriously damaged our beautiful game, and it's not VAR; it's how we've applied it. Jamie Rubin's suggestion is an eminent one, is a good one. It finished for me the Arsenal match. Remember that horrendous decision that got with a goal? 3 decisions: offside, foul, and something else, all being looked at the same time. And the players were standing around in the pitch for nearly 10 minutes with the Arsenal players surrounding the referee. They're not even supposed to be near him when that's happening. And it just made a mockery of the whole thing. So the decision to get rid of it, I can understand. But for me, it's a cop-out for the Premier League as well, because they don't know how to put it right. And the solution's been there for me all along. Just learn how to use it properly. Go and see the cricketers. Go and see the rugby league. Go and see the rugby union. And have a look what the fans see. Every angle the referee sees, the fans see. And that's what it should be. And if that was done, it would do away all this suspicion of favouring the top 6 and all this sort of rubbish. Well, at the moment, it does. As we saw on Wednesday night, if you had a red shirt at Old Trafford, you're not going to get a bloody penalty, are you? Even with VAR. So, Jamie's suggestion's a good one. But my view would be, if they don't get it right the way other sports have, they'd far better off without it, because it's damaging our game.
Okay, VAR, Steve, scrap it or not? And do you think the Premier League clubs will vote to scrap it? There seems to be a feeling that they won't.
I don't think they will. I think that I understand why Wolves have brought it. Wolves apparently are the club that have been hit hardest this season by some decisions. The problem doesn't lie with in my opinion anyway, it doesn't lie with VAR in particular. I think it lies with the referees, the PGMOL, and their friends who are also referees who sit in the box, as I call it, down at Stockley Park and do the assessment. I think there are certain referees who are protected. So I think there are referees in Stockley Park, when it comes to making a decision, who don't want to overrule the referee during the game, because I think that they look at it and I think it's all subjective, and I think it's all subliminal, and I think that there is a fear factor that next week the shoe will be on the other foot. I put that on Twitter today in a conversation we had with Andy Kerr, who used to be at Tyne Television and is now at BN Sports. And I think we came to the consensus that that is an issue. That is a big issue. I understand where Jamie's coming from in terms of the time limit, but I don't think that would work, because what it also implied was that if a decision hasn't been made within 60 seconds, you stick with the on-field decision. The on-field decision on Wednesday night was wrong. It took, and then the VAR decision was wrong. Because
they would have seen it, though, Steve. They would have seen that was a penalty.
Well, but what they did was they took the referee's position where they rolled it forward another few frames, and they said, and then they came up with the answer, which was, you know what, Casemiro got the ball anyway. Hang on, foul or not foul? Was he fouled or was he not fouled? Yes, he was fouled. The fact that someone, as he's going down, then chips the ball away from his foot is neither here nor there. But somebody made a subjective decision to say, well, he wouldn't have scored anyway if he'd managed to keep on his feet, because less than a second later, Casemiro had flicked the ball away from him. He was fouled by the player behind him who caught his ankle, and he was on his way down. And I think the very fact is that they're not interpreting it right. I think the wrong people are involved in it, and I think you take it away from the PGMOL. You get an independent bunch who will run it, who are there specifically to run VAR. They're not referees, nothing like that. They're there to say, was it a foul? Was it not a foul? It's and until then, until you can take away that aspect of it, don't have VAR. That would be my opinion. And then if VAR's not there, then it gives the authorities the opportunity to say, right, we're not going to bring it back until we've got it right. I think that's where it stands. And then we'll focus on why the decisions from the VAR officials are incorrect. And yes, they're going to come back and say, well, it was 82 or 83% of decisions, and now we're getting 96% decisions right. That's the argument they go. You can throw all sorts of figures. The very fact is that they're making decisions and they're coming up with the wrong one when everybody can see it. And that's what needs to be shaken out. And they've got to have the referee the referee in the VAR, who is then next week going to be a referee being assessed by another colleague. He is not going to go, for example, against Michael Oliver, because next week Michael Oliver might be in the box. And it's only human nature. You're going to go, you know what? I'll go against him. I'll make him look a fool. If he's going to make me look a fool one week, I'll make him look a fool. That's the sort of thing that occurs. It's only human nature. And also you do it as well. For example, if it was Mitch in the box, or Mitch was the referee, and it was me in the box that was making going to try and overrule him, I might be the sort of person that, well, he's my mate, so I'm not going to, and you hear the patter, you hear all the banter, you hear, what's Ollie said, Ollie, all this crap, all this idea of talking over the top, and it's like, and it's so pally. It's like something from the Fast Show when you hear that. When you hear that spin back, it's like a comedy, because the way that they talk to each other, the way that they interact with each other, and roll it back, roll that back 3 frames, will you? Like, it's 12 frames a second, and they go, roll it back 3 frames. I just want to see that. And we also know that the system that they're using, camera-wise, is not good enough to be able to differentiate between, especially on the offside, between when the player is moving, where the player is, and when the ball is kicked, because moving it back 3 frames does not give you the advantage of knowing that's the point of connection with the ball, that's the point of connection, or whatever. It doesn't work like that. And you see some of the offside decisions that we saw last week again, absolutely shocking. What happened to the striker being given the benefit of the doubt? If you're in line, you're on. Not if you're in line, but your toenail is over there, you're off. All of this this is where they're getting it wrong, in my mind, Steve. So, but I don't think there'll be enough. I don't think there'll be 14 clubs that will vote to get rid of it.
Okay, Mitch, what's your thoughts on the VAR issue? It's a contentious one.
I think if I was refereeing the game and he was in the box, all you'd hear is, Mitch, man, what the fuck you playing at?
What happens?
Anyway, look, I think if it ends up being scrapped, some will applaud it, many will laud it, but it'll be a very Pyrrhic victory, because that then leaves you at the mercy of what the real problem is. And the real problem is the officiating in our game at the top level.
Bad referee.
It's not right. It's poor at best. It's inconsistent. They make decisions that baffle so many people within the game when they look back at it. I mean, that decision the other night, what the fuck does it matter that Casemiro gets the ball and flicks it away? It's black and white. Was that a foul inside the box or not? That's the question. Not, was that a foul inside the box and would that have been resulted in a goal scoring opportunity and blah, 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 blah. That's all absolutely assumptions. Who's to say if he hadn't had his ankle flicked, he wouldn't have got his toe end onto the ball, flicked it out the way of Casemiro and gone on, and even then not necessarily even had a shot on goal? You do not know, because that did not happen. And Gillette's another one with history of going on to VAR and persuading the on-field referee to make a different decision. And he's got a lot of history of that. And particularly when he's working with referees that he feels they're superior. He's more experienced than them. Was he not on VAR when we had the penalty against Fulham, when we had the referee who was only refereeing his third game?
Yep.
And he gave the penalty. But VAR made sure it was given.
Yeah.
You know, and so these are the fundamentals we need to be addressing. Not do you scrap VAR or not? Because honestly, scrapping VAR leaves you at the mercy of that lot, and that's going to be even worse at one stage. We need to change how VAR works. We need to change the interaction between those in the box and those on the pitch. Whether those on the box are independent, come from a different league, have no necessary association. I'm sorry, Meg Dean gave all of that away with one sentence in an interview with Sky about him not wanting to pile on the pressure on his mate. Well, I'm sorry, mate, you've just dropped them all in it with that line. And you can sit behind your little desk in the Sky Sports studio these days and sound fantastic and be a little bit amusing. You've got everything you wanted. It's now is the Mike Dean show. Ooh, look at me. I'm making all the refereeing decisions in the world, but you've given all away with that sentence. And so that needs to be addressed. We need to be getting hold of older referees, Keith Hackett, people who previously been associated, to get them involved with bringing standards up, because PGMOL is not fit for purpose.
Yeah, Moses put up a good one there, didn't he? Moses said, "Why does it work in Europe but not here? Because the referees in the European competition are not necessarily mates. The one in the box with the referee on the pitch. They don't meet each other.
Absolutely.
You know, that their paths cross in European competition every now and again. They're not their mates.
Yeah.
They're not there sometimes standing next to each other as the fourth official one week, and then the next week the man in the VAR, and the following week being VAR'd by your mate.
And even worse, they could be assessing the individual in a game to write appraisal of how they're refereeing. You know, it's insidious.
It comes back with that decision from Gillette about us is making an assumption.
Yeah.
And what you need in there is somebody who's actually played the bloody game to a high level to say, well, this is not, the assumption you're making there is not necessarily right. Because also somebody who played the game at a high level, I'm telling you right now, would turn around to the official in the VAR box and say, if somebody's gone to do someone, they all know what it looks like when a player goes to do someone, and they all know what it looks like when it's an accident. Yeah. And you don't even have to play it at the top level to know that. And so all of these subtle things that you're asking referees to make decisions on, and I don't think they're actually equipped to make those decisions.
Does anybody here think that the referee would have given a free kick if that tackle on Gordon had been outside the box?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm almost certain that he would have, and there would have been no complaints. There would have been no questioning. There would have been nobody in the VAR box going, "I think you need to roll that back," and I think that you made a wrong decision there. That was a foul. Outside the box, he would have given it. He didn't have the courage of his convictions to give it because it was inside the box and he was under pressure. And then the same goes for the guy in the VAR. He wasn't going to overrule it. He wasn't going to overrule it because of the very nature of the game, when it occurred, what its impact would have been. And also, it was his mate. And he's not going to overrule his mate in that situation because he doesn't want to make his mate look a fool.
Okay, great stuff. Good points, good questions tonight. Thanks to everybody in the chat. There's about 180 watching on different platforms tonight. We're broadcasting on LinkedIn, Facebook, and on Twitter. If you're watching on one of those, please jump over to nufc Matters on YouTube and subscribe. We do 7 shows a week, and we are not going to stop during the summer. We will have lots of different content over the summer, of course, but we'll be concentrating on a lot of the ins and outs, and I'm sure there will be quite a few over the summer. Okay, as always, on Friday, we do have plenty to get through. And some people like the music, for the day I met. Some people don't like the music for the day I met, and I've been speaking to Neil Jackson about this because he does a lot of the videos, and he says, should we change it? But we haven't this time. The day I met, where I asked you to send in photographs of you meeting somebody from Newcastle United, past or present, and this one from Simon Rudd. He goes, "Morning, mate. Just came across this photo for the day I met section to the three Amigos. I think this is one of the events you put on," and it certainly was. What a lineup, Simon! What a lineup on that photograph, mate. Tino Asprilla at the back row on the left, Liam O'Brien, the late great Pavel Cernacek, John Beresford, Brian Kilcline, Philip Albert there in the far right-hand side, and of course all the people who you were at the event with the cup that were played for at the very first Entertainers game. So that's a great photograph, that, Simon. Thanks for sharing that. It was a cracking night, that, at the Civic Centre, and thanks for sharing it. If you've got a photo you want to share with us, go to the Facebook group and join it, or go to the Facebook page and like it, or contact me at Steve Wraith on X, and we will feature your show so we can play this music. I love it. Roger Cook posts that in the chat. He loves that music. Geordie Tuvaline says, "Steve, you're just stubborn with that bloody awful music." Bill Burnett says, "Thanks for warning, Steve. Sound off."
I feel exactly the same about the lookalike, Steve. They're just stubborn.
Keep telling me, as my Marjorie used to love it, but then she used to love everything bloody Steve Wraith did. Even when I sit and speak for 2 hours on my bloody own doing it, those were the days she used to say, "Hey, that Steve's great, isn't he?"
Okay. Newcastle United conclude their Premier League season in West London on Sunday. They take on Brentford. It's a 4:00 kickoff at the G-Tech Community Stadium. For anyone with tickets for the game, please be aware that the search procedures outside the away end tend to be thorough and lengthy, and it does cause delays to entry. May also be badly received by some. So just bear that in mind when you're heading to the ground on Sunday. Team news, well, Tino Livramento joins an absentee list that is shorter than it has been in previous months this season, but it's still quite long. Joe Willock, Lewis Miley, Matt Targett, Sandro Tonali, Sven Botman and Jamal Lascelles all missing. Speaking today, Eddie Howe said that Anthony Gordon was a slight doubt with an ankle knock. He also talked about Callum Wilson, and he said that he is predicted to return after illness. Saw him miss the last 2 games against Brighton and Manchester United. As for Brentford, Rico Henry, Joshua De Silva, Aaron Hickey and Ben Mee will all miss the game. Nathan Collins, Fran Onyeka and Neil Maupay are all provisionally available. Where can Brentford finish after the game at the weekend? 15th or 16th this time round. They have had 13th and 9th place finishes in their previous 2 Premier League campaigns. So this one's been a bit of a struggle for them. Why? Because they've had to play without Ivan Toney for most of the season. And when he's come back, this isn't music to my ears. He hasn't managed to score in the last 11 games.
Don't say that, Steve.
Exactly. We know exactly what's coming. It means Newcastle's we're definitely going to have to score 2 goals at the weekend if we want to win this game. Because Ivan Toney, it's a knock and bet, will score. He's also, in the games that he's played against Newcastle in the Premier League, of which there's been 4, has scored 3 goals against Newcastle. He's also missed a penalty as well. Bear that in mind. At home this season, Thomas Frank's side have won 5 games all season. They've drawn 7 and they've lost the remaining 6. Referee Simon Hooper, 3rd game in charge of a Newcastle fixture, the 4-1 Premier League home win over Chelsea and the 2-0 FA Cup reverse at Manchester City. And on the controversial VAR, which could be our last game with VAR, who knows, is Paul Tierney. So, George, last game of the season, mate. Here we are.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
what's your thoughts on this one? We haven't got Andre's video today. He hasn't sent us one, so I hope he's
That's
okay.
all right.
But I do have Paul Scunny Mags around the ground, so I'll go around the table with you lads, and then we'll do that. But yeah, go on. What's your thoughts?
Well, I'm hoping, for God's sake, for a reaction after Wednesday night. If they were going to go out with a whimper, I'd be very disappointed. So I'm expecting a reaction, and they'll give it a real go. And if the real Newcastle turns up, then we'll beat Brentford. I don't care who plays for Brentford. They have 3 Ivan Tonys, will still beat them. For me, as always, Mr. Positive for my team. I think we'll take Brentford on at the weekend and give the mathematicians lots to do about where people play and all that sort of thing at the end of the season. But I'm optimistic enough to think we've got enough to beat them and finish the season on a high. But I certainly want a reaction. If Anthony Gordon's fit, that makes it all that better. But even without Anthony Gordon, we still should have enough to frighten them to death if Usyk's fit and so on. So because their best defender, me, is a huge miss, and whoever's standing in for him is in for a torrid time if Usyk's playing. But even without Usyk, with Gordon and Barnes, and we've got enough people that run with like the wind to frighten a very, very static Brentford defence, in my view. So my positivity for Newcastle United says we'll win that one.
Prediction?
2-1.
2-1, okay. That's what I've gone for, a 2-1 win to Newcastle. What about you, Steve?
George said need a reaction. The number of times I've heard that this season from my own mouth or from other people's mouths is quite disappointing, because I don't know whether it's because we've set a high bar after last season where we finished, or whether it's because we have had some really, really poor performances after some very good games and some decent runs. I look at last week and I look at the game that we played against Brighton, where I thought we struggled to turn up at times in that 90 minutes. And then I look at the Man United game where I heard you earlier say that we had 20 efforts on goal, Steve. We only scored 2 goals. We let in 3. We conceded 3. And that, I think that sort of symbolises the topsy-turvy nature of the way we've been playing of late. It's something that Eddie Howe needs, and I know that we've had injuries, but it's a squad of 25, but we haven't used all 25, obviously. But I think it's one of those things that Eddie needs to shake out of himself in a little bit, in terms of, I'm not saying looking for excuses, but he is very, very pally-pally. He is very trustworthy. We never hear him get annoyed. We never hear him sort of really, really shaking the tree, if you like, in terms of demanding a reaction from the players. It's the fans that are going out there saying we need one, and I'm looking for one, but I don't hear that from within the club. And maybe that's just the nature of the personalities within the squad, or the nature of the relationship that Eddie has with the team that he's reluctant to criticise at times. But we're not finishing. We seem to be over-elaborating. We certainly did that in the last 3 games, where we over-elaborated and suffered the consequences. And I don't know whether this game is like a game too far for us. I don't know whether it's kicked the stuffing out of us in terms of the results of the last couple of games. I think the Crystal Palace game did, actually, to be perfectly honest. I think that was the game where the momentum was really, really with us, and then we'll go to Palace and we'll lose 2-0, and we're absolutely played off the park as well. And I think from then there's been a bit of a hangover. We're certainly a hangover last weekend. And there was, I thought we did okay against Man United. I thought that we took the game to them, but I thought that we didn't really get, I suppose, the rub of the green at times. But I think tomorrow I'm not enthused for a win, Steve. I'm not as enthused. I think we'll go down 2-1. I'm sorry to say it. It's probably the first time this season that I've had that negative feel, but it's just the way things are at the moment. The way I feel that the season's just petering out. So let's see.
All right. Okay. So you've gone for a defeat. What about you, the Mitch? How do you see this game going?
Say they're going to be a total damp squib, 0-0, and an absolute pile of shite. or it's going to be 5-6 with a controversial late winner that'll send Thomas Frank over the edge in a press conference. And he'll turn up smothered in grease like Charles Bronson in a prison cell and take all the press on single-handed. It's going to be one or the other. I hope it's the latter. I think it'll be the former. I think everybody knows the season's petered out. Their season's petered out to mid-table mediocrity. Probably depends on how badly they want it. If they want it badly enough, our away form's there to be taken. If they've got their flip-flops on, we might nick something. But I'm finding it hard to get excited for it, to be honest. It's like I'm at the point now, season's over, get it done. And it's annoying because I should be saying, let's push on and make sure that we secure a European place. I think there's a section of our fan base won't be happy with a secured European place if it's not Champions League. And so it gets difficult to get up for that. I think it's either going to be an absolute cracker or a total waste of space and out in between.
Okay, what's the dice say?
The dice says 2-1 to Brentford.
Okay, and what do you say?
Probably the most right the dice has been all season. I'd say they're going to be 0-0 or 5-6.
Okay.
Kind of make me make up which.
I love it. All right. Well, it's an interesting one. I think only Steve's gone for the negative result. We'll see. I noticed a few people in the chat criticising me singing, so I've dug a couple of extra tweets out. This one, things we didn't do: start the fire or shoot the deputy. And then things we did do: built this city and shot the sheriff. And things we want to do: break free and hold your hand. And things we will do: we will rock you. And things we will do: I will survive. And I'd do anything for love. There you go. I hope that cheered everyone up from the singing department. And this one, it is another hungry mouth to feed, says Gary. In the cattle.
Oh, dear me. In the cattle.
There you go, Jules. I hope that cheered you up. I'm sure everybody will be delighted there in the chat.
I can hear my Marjorie laughing her socks off.
You missed the bottom bit that says things we won't do, which was for those three. Join in with Steve on karaoke.
Yay! Brilliant. John Spence as well says, Steve Barry said, can you hurry along as he's going on the drink again?
He's just giving him the drink.
Yeah, I think YouTube's playing up again. What's that now? He says T-Tank. And now I'll sing in the style of a pub singer, says Gary. Yes, I'm sure my singing is a lot better than you guys all say. But anyway, well, I've still got 12 minutes of the show. So let's see if we can fit another question in. This has been great, hasn't it, Tom? I see Sports Direct's lost their bid over Newcastle United's exclusive football kit supply deal with rival retailer JD Sports. Paul says, Ashley losing his appeal has made my night. George, do you think that's the last we'll hear of Mike Ashley in Newcastle United?
No, he's already appealing again, isn't he? He's already having another go. He's
not very appealing.
He's not. No, he never lets go. He's once he's got a hold, he doesn't let go. He gets his teeth in. He's going to hang on. But I understand from what I read today that he's taken it to the next level. Even after three judges unanimously said that his claim was vexatious, was the word they used, which you cannot say much in legal terms. It cannot be worse than vexatious. But Ashley's having another go, as far as I understand.
Okay, Steve, Do you think we'll hear the end of Mike Ashley at some point?
No, ask Glasgow Rangers. That's all I would say.
Yeah.
Meaning chasing them. The next court case I'm waiting from Ashley is for the return of the lettering that was on the stand, on the East Stand. That's the next bit. Where's me Sports Direct lettering? What you done with that? I want it back. You've got rid of it. Oh, hang on a minute. We can't do that. That's the sort of crazy thing he'd come up with next for. You know, I mean, the man's obsessed with not getting his just desserts. And like I said, you just look at the way that he twisted and had Glasgow Rangers, like, you know, wrapped around his little finger. There'll be something else in the mire. Let's not.
Yeah,
sure, you know, it's definitely coming. There will be something. It'll be so. We know that there's a court case with him and Amanda still hovering, so he's still got that one in the ether. And there will be something else. There'll be something else he'll not be happy about. He'll be going through paperwork with a fine-tooth comb, trying to catch on something else. But yeah, he's just that sort of worm, you know. That it just keeps creeping around.
Yeah, Mitch, it just seems to be never ending, doesn't it, with Ashley?
He's an obsessive, aggressive, litigious businessman who takes the hump when he feels he's not getting his own way.
Simple as that.
And
really.
It is as simple as that. And the sports world is waking up to him a lot in the last few years. Even Castoria this week, or the last couple of weeks, have tried very hard to distance themselves from him, because there was all these rumours going around that he was directly involved with them, and they've had to come up and say, look, with all these deals that we've done with them, yes, we share certain things in the blockchain, we share certain things in the retail space, so we have to try and get along with them, but we're not impressed with some of the deals that we got out of our relationship with them. So I think when they're putting them at arm's length, it should tell you everything you need to know. I still think we're quite lucky that we've retained the rights to all of our club badges, and we're not having to redo club badges because we have to. It's quite clear from Adidas in the way they're designing the new kits that we still have the property rights and availability to use every old crest and the current crest. So that's great. That's one that we've managed to avoid with them, because that was one of the tricks he did with Rangers, of course. Yeah. So yeah, look, he'll be back in some way, shape, or form. I've got no doubt about that.
He just likes the publicity, lads. That's what he likes. He likes the publicity. It keeps his brand in the public eye, and that's what it's all about for him. And I think we've given him enough time on the Amigos tonight. Yeah. I'm gonna give Scunny Mag his final showing of the season. So over to him. If you're going to Brentford, listen up. What 3 words?
Hi folks, this is it. Season draws to a close. Brentford away, last game. We win, we're pretty much guaranteed Europe, unless Manchester United pull off a miracle against Man City. And either way, if Chelsea lose, we're guaranteed it anyway, so long as we take all 3 points. Let's see what the day brings. It's coming up next. If you're coming by train, the nearest station is Kew Bridge, which is a few minutes walk from the ground. And if you drive in, you can find parking at the Fountain Leisure Centre. The postcode is Tango Whiskey 80 Hotel Juliet. That'll set you back about £3. It's about 300 metres from the stadium. It's not very big. It fills up fast. Another option is the B&Q, just to the north slightly. They have allowed parking previously, but check when you get there. Make sure you read any signage and stuff like that. They can change that at any point. Also, if you are using the B&Q one, be careful. There's a few other car parks around there for shopping areas, and they will give penalty notices and stuff like that. They have ANPR cameras on the entrances and stuff, so just bear that in mind. Okay, so when you get there, you'll probably want to drink. You're quite spoilt for choice at Brentford. I have no less than 8 around the ground that will welcome away fans, so I'll just fire through them. The Express Tavern is probably one of the closer ones to the ground. Your postcode is Tango Whiskey 80 Echo Whiskey, and it's on 56 Kew Bridge Road. Your what 3 words to make it easy is gives never crowds. And a little bit south from there, as you're heading towards the bridge over the river, is 1 over the 8. That's at number 8 Kew Bridge Road. Your what 3 words is firm tested sentences. Moving along the river a bit, you've got the Steam Packet, which has Shaky Talent Tribes. A little bit further down from that, you've got the Bell and Crown, Jokes, list dating. And further down, you've got the city badge with the what 3 words of option, clever, grab. Moving over the bridges into the Kew Green area, you have the cricketers, whose what 3 words is events, window, plenty. The greyhound, which is mash, flame, beard. And the botanist, which is shut, soccer, moment. And as I said, cracking selection, something for everyone. When you're ready to head up to the ground, access to the away turnstiles is only via a footbridge over the railway line, which you access via Capital Interchange Way. The what 3 words for the bottom of the footbridge, if it makes it easier, is boot advice lines. As you head over, it should be pretty obvious where to go, but just in case, turnstiles is claps, shirts, follow. All that's left to say is enjoy the game. Cheers.
Paul, you didn't tell that story that you told us in the boozer last weekend. You probably forgot what you told us, so we'll have to come on at some point and explain the what 3 words for the for that club that we spoke about.
You know
what 3 words for the away end tomorrow, by the way, when you get to the search area, it's past the Vaseline.
I was going to say, can you imagine if we did a Scunny Mag for away fans coming to St James's Park? How long would it last? There's 130 pubs that you can go to, and we'd still be here at 9:30. You know, as he described.
Yeah. Well, I was asking him about what 3 words because I'd never heard of it until he came on this show, and he was going, well, he's actually a delivery driver. That's what he was telling us. He says, and he says, we got so sick of getting postcodes, and you know, Steve, you'll appreciate this doing the job you do now. He says, but you get postcodes and you end up like miles away from a certain place. He says, so the what 3 words takes you to the exact location. He says, so it's actually quite useful.
Yeah.
But he says some of the what 3 words for some of the venues and places are absolutely hilarious. You know what I mean?
Exactly. It's basically gridded off for like, I think it's like within 1,000 yards, sort of like a little square grid. That's all it is. And then they give each one a separate name. But the whole world's covered in it, you know?
They use it for rescuing people at sea now.
What 3 words? Don't bloody sing. No more singing, says Julie. Yeah, no, thanks for this suggestion. This is the sound of silence. And silence is golden, golden. Yeah, brilliant. Thanks for that. Any more suggestions before we finish? Sing song, Steve.
I won't Hang the Pope by Nuclear Assault.
I don't know that one. There's a question we can't get to tonight, but we have got the professionals tomorrow, and it's 3:00 tomorrow afternoon because obviously the lads are heading back home after the boxing on Saturday night. So professionals live 3:00 tomorrow. Chippers, remember to send the question in about has Eddie Howe ever played his strongest 11? And Ian, if you're watching tomorrow afternoon, send that one again. Do you think the pressure will be on Howe to at least win a cup? And those are 2 great questions. We'll start with them tomorrow, 3:00. Live with me and Stu before they head to the boxing, the lucky buggers. But for now, thank you to everybody tuning in. We will be doing the Amigos all the way through the summer, so we will be back next Friday at 5:00. It's thanks to George, thanks to Steve, and thanks to Mitch, and thanks to you for watching. Thanks to all the mods. And if you are watching on one of the other platforms, please subscribe to NFC Matters on YouTube. Take care, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Good to see you all.